I found out what happened to my missing brother and tried to reunite with him. In an attempt to find my missing brother, I got in contact with some family detectives, and what they discovered has me drinking in an attempt to cope with what I learned. So, it turns out that my brother was no longer on any missing persons registry, and the reasoning for this was that he was removed from this registry as per my parents' request. Why would they remove him? I was extremely puzzled and asked my dad. He ignored me, though, and simply didn't engage in the topic, leaving me even more confused and now worried. My mom, on the other hand, told me my brother is alive and okay. She said it was time for me to know, and willingly spilled the beans that they found my brother years ago, and found out he was living with another man. He's gay, and they couldn't accept it. Unfortunately, the fact that my parents wouldn't accept him for being gay didn't come as a shock to me. I knew my parents' background and how they were raised in the Deep South, but what really does sting is that my brother tried reaching out to them, but they told him they didn't want anything to do with him, and that I didn't remember him, and wouldn't want to see him. When she said that, I went ballistic, but my parents weren't fazed by this. They sincerely hate my brother for who he is. They kept him a secret from me all my life. My brother missed the birth of his nephew, he missed my wedding, graduations, everything, just because of my parents who lied to me. But I also have some amazing news. I've been able to get my brother's phone number from police officers. My brother left it all open in case anyone from our family wanted to contact him. I still can't work up the nerve to call him. The address I have for him is across the country, but he's alive. My brother is alive. I'm crying right now. I need to call him. Update. The next day, I woke up and called into work. I told my wife the whole story, and she wasn't really surprised. She's not a fan of my parents much. She also told me to call the number I was given for my brother immediately. She insisted on it. She took herself and my son out for a day together so I could be alone to talk with him, and refused to come back until I had called. I worked up the courage and dialed the number about 7 times before I actually pressed the call button. It started ringing, but I hung up. Then I got frustrated at myself and called the number back. It rang, and I got a voicemail, but it was the automated voice, not anyone else's. I didn't leave a voicemail. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. I called my wife and told her to come home, and she reiterated that she won't until I had talked to someone on the other end of the phone. About an hour of pacing and drinking 2 glasses of scotch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I called the number again. It rang 3 times. I panicked and hung up, but this time the number was calling me back. I almost threw up right there, but I answered the call. The first thing I heard on the other end, semi-drunkenly tell him that this isn't an affair and nothing bad is happening, but to please give my brother a day or two of space before we explain everything. It was crazy for a couple of days until everything was explained and out in the open. My son and my brother were like 2 peas in a pod. Honestly, I never wanted children. My son was an amazing accident, but I'm not good with kids. I'm always afraid I'm going to break them. But my brother is a pro. Kids love him. He stayed with us for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks everything about my life changed. His husband and 2 daughters flew in to stay with us. My brother-in-law and my 2 nieces. My family. My brother wants my wife and I to move to be closer to him. My wife is on board. I work as a professor at a university and have already started to send out feelers to see if there are any open positions, and I found one that is actually tenured and higher pay. I do not plan on forgiving my parents, but my brother still loves them. He went by their house and knocked on the door. My father shut the door in his face without even saying a word, very clearly displaying his opinion about my brother. My mother gave him a hug and told him to take care of himself. Then she shut him out. I can't forgive them for that. I have no reason to stay close to them. I want to be with my family. I want to make up for all the lost time. Update 2. Everything in my life has changed in the last 10 months. My wife, son, and myself have moved. Not exactly to the same region of the country as my brother and his family, but much closer to him. I got a new job teaching at a new university months ago. While it's not a tenured position, it gives me the option to do research, which is my favorite thing to do. My brother-in-law's family has had many interesting discussions with each other trying to describe what has happened between my brother and I. They're a pretty open-minded and accepting family, so to hear what we have been through was absolutely shocking to them. My brother never told his husband the truth about his life, only that he didn't speak to his family anymore. Nevertheless, they welcomed me and my family with open arms when we came to visit. It was like we had always been part of their family. I feel content knowing that they are my family. When my brother ran away with his first boyfriend, he was 18. He has elaborated and told me that the relationship with the man was abusive, and when he tried to leave and return home, our parents would not let him. So he was forced to stay with the abuser because he had nowhere else to go until he moved away to college. This deepened my anger for my parents, but my brother, still, to this day, has this ridiculous sense of hope and optimism. I love that about him, because I don't have that. My brother and I are 2 very different people, but in a way that works well. We reflected on my teenage years, and I filled him in on what happened with my life. My brother has been able to create a spectacular life for himself, all on his own. One thing I struggle with is knowing that he went through more than half of his life by himself, putting himself through college and law school all alone. The more he filled me in about the years away from our parents, the more angry I became. I severed communication with my parents months ago, and it has done wonders for my own mental health. However, recently I called my mother after she begged me to talk. When we began our conversation, she asked how I was doing. My answers were short, one-worded. She jumped right in and I could tell she was uncomfortable. She apologized, but she apologized only to me. I wasn't fazed by this. I told my mother that she should talk to my brother, and unless she did that, then she need not call me anymore. I told my brother that our mother had called and apologized, and the look on his face was pure happiness. I can't even begin to describe it to you all. It was as if all of his dreams had come true. My brother called our mother, and she, to my surprise, picked up. They had a short conversation, and my brother's happy glow had dimmed somewhat when he got off the phone. He told me that she said she had only wanted to say she does not approve of what my brother does, but she had read up on his lifestyle and recommended conversion therapy. My brother ended the call with a very gentle, "I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't do that. I love you. Good night." I think my brother has been broken these last few weeks, and the hope and optimism that naturally carries him through life has been eradicated. He's buried himself in work and ignores any discussion around our family. My wife is a counselor, and she normally avoids counseling people she doesn't work with, but she's told me that the only thing I can do for my brother at this point is to be there for him and to never let him be alone again. Yesterday, while stewing on my own rage about my parents, I called my mother, and when she answered, I just began screaming into the phone. I unleashed a lot of things, and I remember crying while I did so because I was so enraged. I told her how much she hurt my brother, her son, and how she put his life in danger, all for her ideology. I told her how unfair and upsetting it is that her and my dad would do this to their children, to my brother, how it's criminal, and how they should be punished. When I finished screaming, I was going to hang up, but she cut in with a quiet, "He sounds grown." My mother acknowledged my brother's existence with that short sentence. Then she went on with, "I'm so sorry. Let me speak to him, okay?" But I didn't. I hung up, then I blocked her number. I don't know what she wanted to say, but I'm afraid it is something that could damage my brother further. I haven't told him that our mom tried to call, and I don't want to. I don't think there's a point. I just want to spend as much time and energy as I can trying to love my brother, my family, my small little slice of bliss. This is my heaven. This is a life I will proudly defend. I am so lucky to have this life, these people, and this happiness, and I will never stop fighting for it.